It can be tempting to ignore your grief or avoid your healing process. But sis, that is so dangerous. There are consequences if you do not process your grief, the experience that you had, and this breakup in general. And today we are going to talk all about it. So join me right after this. Hey sis, welcome to Goodbye Heartbreak, Hello Healing. Are you hurt and confused after a recent breakup? Are you having thoughts like, I can't believe I'm here again. Why wasn't I enough for him? Or I'm never going to get married. Do you find yourself Googling how to get past the breakup or how to heal my broken heart? Do you start your morning feeling like you can finally breathe again, only to fall apart when you see a picture of your ex on social media? Hey sis, I'm Candace. I too was a single Christian woman who was heartbroken but still desired marriage. I too had numerous failed relationships and wished the right man would come along. I wanted closure from past relationships, healing for my heart, and I wanted to feel joy in my life again. But the truth is, I had no idea where to start or how to make any of this happen until I found the secret, partnering with God to heal from heartbreak. In this podcast, you will find tips for moving on after breakups, growing your relationship with God, and preparing for future relationships so that you will heal your heart and be ready to move forward into the life you desire. So turn off those heartbreak songs and turn me up in those earbuds. It's time to heal, sis. Hey sis, and welcome back for another episode of Goodbye Heartbreak, Hello Healing. Thank you so much for joining me on today. I am excited about today's topic, but before we jump into it, I just want to ask you to make sure that you are subscribed to the podcast wherever you are listening. And please, if you have not yet left your 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts, please go and leave your review. It really helps the show and it helps others just like you to find the show. So today we are talking about the dangers of actually ignoring your grief, of avoiding the healing process. Sis, I know it can feel overwhelming to process this experience, to process what actually happened in the breakup, in the relationship, what you're going through right now, the feelings and the emotions could seem like a lot, but it's important that you do it, okay? And I'm going to tell you, I was one of those people who ran from healing, okay? I thought that it was too much work. It wasn't worth my time. And quite frankly, I would rather a distraction. But listen, I wish I had done it sooner rather than later. And so something that I didn't know I was dealing with was grief avoidance. All right. Grief avoidance is when you are distracting yourself instead of processing your pain. It's when you're pretending that you're over it when you're really not. It's using busyness and new relationships or even numbing type behaviors to cope whenever you should actually be healing and grieving. Okay. And so these things I just named, these are like temporary coping mechanisms, all right? Like I said, I was one, instead of healing and processing, I would just get into another relationship with someone else. I would just start dating again. I would start entertaining guys in one form or another instead of actually focusing on healing and growing and becoming better, actually getting over what happened and what I just went through. True healing is taking the time to actually process your emotions, your thoughts, your experiences so that you can get on the other side of it healthier, whole, and just so much more growth. You have a lot of growth when you actually take time to go through the healing process. So I want to remind you of a scripture that I have spoken a lot here, and I don't mind repeating it over and over. Psalms 34:18, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted. It's something I always want to remind you of because whenever you are dealing with a breakup, you're heartbroken, it can feel like God is far away from you. You have questions like, why is this happening? And you are not sure which way to turn because you feel like because this bad thing that I'm using air quotes, bad, thing happened to you that God can't be in it. He can't be near to you, but that is so far from the truth. Whenever we are brokenhearted, God is right there because He is the one that we should run to, and He wants to comfort us. He wants to be with us in our pain, and so that He can do the work in our hearts from the inside out. So just remember that. Now, I want to talk about the dangers of not actually processing your grief, because that's the big thing here. I know some people say it's too difficult to think about their ex. It's too difficult to actually feel the pain, but it's going to be even more difficult not to in the long run. It may be hard right now. I'm not going to downplay this experience for you. I'm not saying that it's not difficult, but in the long run, where do you see yourself? Where do you see yourself 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, or even a year down the road? If you do not process this pain, you will not be able to become the full version of yourself that God created you to be, because you're going to have all this baggage that you're dealing with. So I'm going to talk about a few things here when we're talking about the dangers of not processing grief. Number one, unhealed wounds resurface later. Okay. Just because you bury them, you cover them up, you distract yourself, doesn't mean that these wounds won't come up again. Because if they're not healed, eventually they will become, think of a real wound, infected. And that's going to hurt, right? Something is going to trigger you. You're going to have emotional triggers. There's bitterness that you are going to start to display, and you're not even going to really know where that came from, but it's going to be a result of not dealing with the pain. You're going to have difficulty trusting people. These are all results of unhealed wounds from the breakup. Number two, you're going to have cycles of unhealthy relationships. So again, you're going to have triggers and bitterness and difficulty trusting. You don't think that those things are going to affect the way that you interact with people in relationships later? They absolutely will. So you're going to be jumping into something new without addressing old pain. You're going to bring your baggage. You're going to bring all of those things that are results of the unhealed wounds. And those things are going to negatively affect your future relationships. Instead of processing and actually healing, going through the journey of healing is what makes you a healthier person. It gets out every negative and bad thing that's within you from that breakup. You are able to get that out of you so that you can be healthy again. Spiritual stagnation happens when you do not process your grief. Your avoidance will block your intimacy with God, because healing requires surrender. And if you're not ready to face the healing process, the journey, then that means you're not ready to surrender to God. All right. And so if you're not surrendering to Him, then yes, that intimacy is going to be very limited. You're saying, God, I don't fully trust you with my heart. I don't trust you to heal me. I don't trust you with my pain. And not that God would be offended per se by that. He can handle your truth, but there's something that you definitely would have to work on, because He's going to just wait for you. He's not going to barge into your life. He's like waiting. He's close to the brokenhearted, but you have to actually turn to Him. You have to actually engage. You have to actually surrender. That is your part in the intimacy with God. Emotional instability occurs whenever you do not process your grief. So things like anxiety and depression or anger are surfacing in unexpected ways. You find yourself anxious about things and you're like, I don't know why I'm so anxious. I was never anxious like this before, but it's a result of unprocessed grief. You have depression maybe where you weren't before, or maybe you're a person who did experience anxiety and depression and anger before, but after the breakup and you haven't processed your grief, it's elevated. And so you don't want these things to keep showing up in your life, affecting, again, every relationship. And I'm not just talking about romantic relationships. I'm talking about professional relationships, friendships, all types of things that it can affect, because your emotions affect your actions, and your actions are going to affect the way that you interact with others. So go ahead, again, sis, it's important that you process this grief. And then there's the loss of true identity. Okay, one of the things, oh my goodness, it's one of the tragic losses whenever you don't process grief. You turn into a person that you don't even recognize. You stay stuck in what could have been instead of stepping into God's purpose and future that He had planned for you. In Jeremiah 29:11, He says, God says to Jeremiah, "For I know the plans I have for you. They're plans to prosper you and not harm you. They're plans to give you hope and a future." You don't think that God has those same plans for you? He wants all of us to prosper. He wants all of us to have hope and a future. But if we're not doing the work, if we're not relying on Him, if we're not, connecting and building that intimacy by surrendering with Him, if we're not healing those wounds, we are not processing that grief, then we are going to stay stuck because our identity is going to be wrapped up in what was, or the fact that relationship failed, and the fact that you didn't get the happy ending that you wanted from that relationship or from that person that you were in the relationship with. It's a lot of just staying stuck if you don't process. All right. So if you want true healing, sis, you have to actually go through the grieving process. It sounds scary, but I'm telling you, it is so worth it. And healing is not just, I say it all the time, it's not just time passing. It's what you do with the time. So just the fact that you are in the grieving process, or you feel like you are grieving, just letting the time pass alone is not enough. Okay. Grief is an invitation for you to have deeper intimacy with God. Why is that? Because it allows you to go to Him. It allows you to invite Him into your life and say, God, come in and be with me in this time. Instead of just completely taking you out of the fire, it makes me think about the 3 Hebrew boys. Instead of Him taking them out of the fire, God allowed them to go into the fire, but He joined them in it, okay? Because they were committed to Him. They were sold out for God. And so they were committed to serving Him no matter what, which is how they ended up in the fire in the first place. But they were delivered from it. They did not look like what they had been through when they came out of it. Go ahead and read that. Oh gosh, where is that? In Daniel, I don't know which chapter, but go ahead and Daniel, search for that and read about how God was with them in that fire and how He delivered them. And He wants to do the same thing for you. So it's really important that you bring your pain to God in prayer, in other ways that allows you to release everything that you are going through with Him. You can journal. We have community available for you. Okay. And so, I always ask people, when I coach women, even in this group coaching, there's a program that I have. One of the big questions is, do you want to be made well? Do you really want healing? And it comes from John chapter 5, verse 6, where Jesus meets this man at the pool of Bethesda who had been there for I think like 30 years or so. And this man had been there for so long. He had lived his life just laying by this pool. Imagine yourself for 30 years being heartbroken. Not because, it's fresh, but because you just never processed. You never stepped into your healing. You never sought the Lord. You never surrendered to Him. Do you want to be made well? Because if you do, God's waiting. Healing's available to you. All right. So I really want to talk about that because I've had, a lot lately. I find when people are fresh out of their relationships, I hear that it's too hard. It's too much to think about. It's too much to think about the person. I cry every time I think about them. People trying to distract themselves. And it's just, a lot of things that I don't want to take you away, lead you astray from this healing process. You are grieving indeed, but don't just stay in your grief. Move through it, process that grief. All right. And so I really, think that is so important. That's why I have the resources that I have to help you on this healing journey. And one of my great resources is my course. If you are a person who is disciplined enough to actually watch the courses and do the work on your own, then Grieving the Living would be an excellent resource for you. And it's, it's 4 weeks that you get to go through the grieving process. I walk you through each stage, what it looks like, what to do at each stage, scripture to support you, encouragement, all the things that you need, tools that you need to actually get through this journey. Okay. And so if that is you, because you are a person who knows that I cannot move on by myself, then go ahead, enroll in the course right now. There's a link for you in the show notes, and you can also use the discount code podcast20 for 20% off of your purchase when you get it. Okay. So I really hope that this episode opened your eyes to some things and allows you to at least start taking the first steps. I want you to identify, what is the first thing that I can do today? Today, don't wait. What can I do today to take a step in the right direction of healing? Okay, what step can I take towards my healing today? Ask yourself that, journal through that, write it down, and then let's go. We're not going to sit on it anymore. All right. So I love you so much, sis. Again, there's a link in the show notes for Grieving the Living. Go ahead and get it. Use that coupon code podcast20 at checkout. And I hope that this episode has blessed you, and share it with a friend. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, sis. Hey, sis. Listen, if you've been blessed, changed, or inspired by this podcast in any way, please subscribe to the podcast and leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. This is the #1 way that you can thank me and show support for the show. Also, if this podcast blessed you, don't keep it to yourself. Do a quick share and bless someone else. Please know I am so grateful for each and every one of you, and I would love to hear from you. Come connect with me and other like-minded individuals in my Facebook group called Christian Women Overcoming Heartbreak and Finding Purpose. I can't wait to meet you back here really soon. Until then, remember to love the life you have while you're making it better. Love you, sis.